We have the longest line with Israel, and in terms of strategic depth, it is hardly very much at all. And if Jordan were destroyed by any cause, then Israel obviously will have changed her posture tremendously in the area. I'm afraid that we do not see any encouraging signs. We have tried our utmost. Egypt has. And until now, the signs that we have are not very encouraging.
Jordan's King Hussein talking earlier this month. During the October War, the Jordanian front was quiet. But if there was another war, we asked him, would he throw his troops into the battle?
I can't tell in advance, but all I can say is that it appears to us, and this is a genuine concern as far as I'm concerned, and everyone in this country, that if there is another war, then Jordan this time is going to be in the center of it. If the objective is to hit the Syrian army, then obviously this will occur through Jordan. If the objective is to destroy a defensive line in the area that would affect all the Arab world by threatening it and alter the situation, then Jordan is obviously the target. It's a question of attempting to find a solution to the Palestinian problem by not withdrawing from the occupied territories, and the formula has always been withdrawal or peace, but never both. But adding territory to change the equation from one of a people with rights in their legitimate homeland to a people with an identity but elsewhere, then obviously Jordan is a target. And if it is the oil and the threat to it, then Jordan is a target. In the face of all these possibilities, and in the face of the Israeli military buildup and lack of progress towards peace, we really feel quite exposed, and we're bracing ourselves for what may happen to the best of our ability.
A few days ago, King Hussein flew to Syria for talks with President Assad on the development of ties between the two countries and for a review of the diplomatic and political situation in the Middle East. The situation at present is of particular importance to both Jordan and Syria because of the signs that Egypt and Israel may be approaching another disengagement agreement in Sinai. A few years ago, scenes like this would have been almost unimaginable. Because of his apparent willingness to consider a separate peace with Israel, and because of the bloody conflict in September 1970 between Jordanian troops and the Palestinian guerrillas, Hussein was virtually an outcast in the Arab world. The Syrian government even gave assistance to the Palestinians in the 1970 war, and relations between the two states were, at best, extremely cool. In the past few months, Hussein's been readmitted into the Arab fold, and the Arab Eastern Front against Israel, comprising mainly Jordan and Syria, has been reconstituted. Just over a couple of months ago, President Assad visited Jordan for talks, and the latest visit, at a time when Hussein seems to be re-evaluating his old alliances and alignments, sets a seal on the restoration of friendly ties. We asked the king how he would assess the state of relations now, and whether there was any possibility of a joint military command being formed between the two countries.
We're very happy and satisfied with the relations with Syria and with all the progress that has been made to bring the countries closer together, and after all, they are historically one country in all fields and areas, and we hope that our relationship will be an example to others in the Arab world. We are taking measured steps to ensure that we have no reversals and that we meet our objectives. There has been no military command up to now. There is a threat to both countries, which is obvious to us. There will probably be attempts at coordinating our efforts in the face of any possible threat to defend our two countries, should we be faced by aggression.
During the October War, the town of Quneitra on the Syrian Golan Heights was a focal point of the fighting, and Jordanian troops played a valuable supporting role for the Syrians. If there's another war, the battle for the town may again be crucial. It was handed back to the Syrians in May last year after the UN negotiated disengagement agreement, but the nearest Israeli positions are still only a few hundred yards down the road. Besides Syria and Jordan, there's another key component of the Arab Eastern Front, the Palestinians, who for years have been bitterly hostile to Hussein. At last year's Arab summit in Rabat, the Palestine Liberation Organization won support for its claim to represent the people of the Israeli-occupied West Bank, formerly under Jordanian rule. Syria's played an active role in trying to reconcile the two sides, and we asked Hussein what relations were like now.
I believe that the issue between us and the PLO ended at Rabat. There was a Jordanian position up to that moment to try to achieve Israeli withdrawal from territories occupied in the June 67 war, the West Bank, and Arab part of the city of Jerusalem. And then for the people of Palestine to decide what their future should be under international auspices. Rabat placed the PLO as the sole representative of the people of Palestine, and that ended the problem between us and the PLO. It's not correct that there should have been negotiations or any direct talks aimed at any point. There was an agreement to coordinate between confrontation states and the PLO. And we are willing to coordinate with anybody who's willing to coordinate with us, but it is not something that we are responsible for, really. And whenever the PLO is thinking in terms of cooperating with us we're giving them all the support that we can, internationally and in every other sphere. Then we are willing to see what could be done.
The new friendship with Syria and the hope of better relations with the PLO signify a hardening of Jordan's line. It's partly because of Hussein's fears, shared by both President Assad and the Palestinians, that Egypt and Israel are about to sign a new Sinai disengagement agreement that will leave them out in the cold. It may also be partly due to the fact that the United States has balked at supplying a new air defense system to Jordan. At stake is the Hawk missile, which Jordan wants and Israel already has. The American Congress has threatened to block the deal, or at least to reduce the number of missiles sold. We asked the king if he'd accept this.
We will definitely not accept any cuts, not by one single missile, of the required number of advanced Hawks that were agreed to be the bare minimum required to defend our skies against any incursion. And we feel obviously threatened, and we hope that the deal will go through. We appreciate very much the positive stands of many senators and congressmen on this issue until now, and we hope that the facts will be clear. We cannot see why Hawks in Israel should be considered defensive and Hawks in Jordan should be considered offensive. We have no air defense system whatsoever, and this is a unique situation as far as this country is concerned in the entire area. We have tried our best for the establishment of a just and durable peace in this area. But in the face of a threat, we must defend ourselves. And if it is not possible for us to obtain the missiles, in particular the Hawk missiles and the advanced Hawk in the numbers that were suggested, then we will have to look elsewhere. If we can't find an equivalent in Europe, we will have to go to the Soviet Union, obviously.
Will you ask the Soviet Union for more arms, say armor and other kinds, if need be?
I can't tell at the moment, but we definitely center our attention on the question of air defense, which has been a requirement for a long period of time. And our American friends on the official level recognize this need. It's a legitimate weapon for self-defense. We must obtain it, or obtain an alternate to it. And I think there's sadly a question of double standards. Some countries that have American weapons and may use them face difficulties in case they are threatened, and we will only use the hook if we are. But Israel has American weapons, and has American weapons that are provided free. This particular deal is a purchase one. And Israel is still in occupation of territories since June of '67, contrary to Security Council resolutions and attempts of the world as a whole. And this is accepted as a defensive posture. Something must be done to correct this.
Jordan's had very good relations with the United States, and you've received a considerable supply of arms. What sort of effect would the failure to obtain the Hawk missiles have on U.S.-Jordanian relations?
I believe that it will affect American-Jordanian relations very adversely. But more than that, it will have a far-reaching effect in terms of the entire Arab world. We have been close friends to the United States for very many years. We have tried our utmost for the establishment of a just and durable peace in this area. The United States is the main supplier of arms to Israel. We require weapons to defend ourselves. We have managed to find friends in the Arab world who would help us finance this deal. If after a joint study and tentative agreement pending, congressional agreement and the Senate's agreement on this particular point, we face failure, I doubt whether the credibility of the United States is going to remain as it was in terms of any commitments. And I'm sure this will cause further damage really to the position of the United States and its image, not only in this part of the world, but elsewhere.
Hussein's been a close friend of America for more than 20 years. It's an indication of the sense of frustration he feels at the lack of progress towards a Middle East settlement that he's now quite clearly becoming disillusioned with that alliance. With Jordan's strategic position, the re-equipping of her army, and her reintegration into the Arab fold, the king is once again a key factor in the regional balance of power. But he himself is just one man, though a head of state, and he's only just escaped many attempts on his life. We asked him finally what would happen to Jordan were a future attempt to succeed.
Well, I believe that Jordan will continue, that I've tried my very best to create a system that will work and will continue regardless of individuals such as myself. I really hope that this would be the case. I've never worried about dangers to myself, because if I started worrying, I wouldn't be able to assume my responsibilities. I believe in God. I believe that if I'm destined to die at any moment, then that is it. I'm a fatalist, and I face every day with confidence and with all my power, try to serve my people, and to the best of my ability.